Hello, welcome back. It's Robin Kelly again here. Recently I've been looking at some videos from Dr Katherine Horton, who is a graduate of Oxford or Cambridge, I think Oxford. She's a physicist and studying academically systems, living systems, structures. And I've been very impressed by her presentations and also the fact that she's been pursued and hounded, presumably because of her knowledge about these systems. And it certainly enlightened me into certain aspects of the prevalence of psychopathy out there. One thing that she's done, and I thank her for this diagram because I've been very happy to try and copy it, is what she calls the pyramidal system, a system of hierarchy that human beings have adopted for millennia. And indeed, if you have an army, or in fact a successful business in the past, it may well be that this was a successful way to go. In other words, you'd have somebody at the top in the army, that would be a field marshal, and there'd be generals underneath, and colonels and majors and captains, and then down below you'd be having the rank and file, if you like. So it's a system, a pyramid system of hierarchy. And this also applies to many business structures and corporate structures. And how do we apply this, our understanding of, let's say, the dark side, the darker side, those who have adopted, let's say, a more ruthless attitude, or maybe born with a ruthless attitude like a psychopath? How have they been able to infiltrate this system and in Catherine's eyes, and I'd have to agree with her, control the system in many ways? How is it that such a small proportion of the population, we've talked about between 1% and 5%, for instance, being psychopathic, or extreme end of narcissistic personality disorder, how is it that they have been able to infiltrate the top? Very much a sort of a neo-Darwinian survival of the fittest, or the survival of the most ruthless, maybe. So here we see down here where most of us are, if you like, in the population. I think there are 32 here, 32 little units, or people, or whatever, of which you could say there's only 2 bad apples amongst them. Slightly higher than probably the population, but if you go one down, you would find that still there would at least be 2, maybe 60, 64 or so units, and if they're people, they would represent the 2 psychopaths. The way things have been structured is that if they were competing for a particular position, then it was likely the psychopath, with their, let's say, their philosophy, for want of a better word, of win at all costs, that they would succeed and move up the scale, if you like, the promotion there and here, to a point where the next run would have a greater proportion of psychopaths. And then if you're saying that there are this management structure here in charge of this, more senior management, then the survival at all costs, and probably adherence to the single bottom line, may well see them promoted up here. So the percentage gets greater as we go up, and then you can see the red begins to fade, and as we go higher and higher, the dark takes over. And it would appear to be that this is a structure that's occurred for millennium, and in some ways it's an unnatural structure. We see nature doing it somewhat in a different way. We've also seen these diagrams here where the old idea was, say, a pyramid like that, or the idea of evolution, and here we are at the top, man at the top, and here we've got ants and elephants and trees and other things at the bottom, and we're at the epitome, if you like, the top of a pyramid. Whereas the more holistic way of viewing the world is that we're just part of, there's us there, there's a funny looking elephant, maybe a cat, because there's a tree there. And we're part of a greater whole, interrelating with all other parts of nature. We have our own specific role, but we're maybe not so dominant. And if you have a look at this to what we would say would be what nature can produce, here's a stick of broccoli. You can see that although here's the stalk, rather like a tree, in fact just like a tree, as we get further and further we get almost smaller self-replicating parts, but with each little bit of broccoli at the end, if you look under the microscope or closer, you'll find they're all slightly different, all fractally represented. So here we have what nature provides in fractal form, with variation of the smaller bits, with each part contributing to a whole. It's actually upside down to that, isn't it? And here's what humans have produced over a number of millennia. And of course, what's happened, this has grown and grown and grown just with our population. And obviously down here the same proportion of psychopaths to the normal population exists. Maybe with 7 billion we've got 1% of that are psychopaths. But as you get higher and higher, and the systems have been self-replicating for many years, we get darker and darker. And hence we've got a lack of proportion here. In fact, in the financial system you'll see that those at the top of the tree are receiving, say, their income and maybe their interest from those huge numbers at the base. So we can see a very few people can be in control of very many. Very few people can have riches which the many don't have. So in some ways this is going against nature. And thereby lies some solutions. One of the things these people have right at the top, obviously, is a certain amount of power and ruthlessness. They don't care about these people down here. In fact, they don't really think about them too much. They're just basically like objects of supply to them. In fact, all the red dots are their narcissistic supply. Basically, they're feeding off those to come here. What they don't have, of course, is all this connection, all these natural connections that we have. Somehow that we have evolved through nature in a fractal way, where each of us can be seen. It's just like one of these little tiny twigs, leaves on the broccoli. Each one unique, each one different, and each one looking much the same, but each one forming a luscious whole. This system of straight lines is going against nature, and because of that it is destructive. It is destructive to themselves, but ultimately it could be destructive to many. So the race is on. The race is on. Are we going to be so connected through human connections, through natural connections, that we overcome the control of a few? And that is the challenge of this century. Thank you very much. Bye.